Hi, and welcome to Living and Learning. I'm your host, Karen Kugel, and this episode is about a very energetic topic, and we hope today, in any case. We're going to be talking about the motivation to exercise, to get off your couch and move to make yourself healthy. And I have to say, in preparation for this talk, I did a little bit of research, and I went to the CDC website, and it's pretty scary. This is the reason why you should pay very close attention to this session. At the CDC website, it said obesity in the United States is common, serious, and costly. Okay, so the basic statistics are pretty scary. 70% of the people in the United States are either overweight or obese. 36.5% of the adult population is considered to have obesity. And something like, I think I read it was something like 17% of the youth population, the 18, I suppose under 18, is. And that's according to the CDC statistics for 2013 and 2014. So we have a problem in this country. And so with us today, we have Dr. Charles Inniss. He is a doctor of physical therapy. He's an educator, a trainer, personal trainer, author, and wellness coach. And he's going to share with us today some information about a model that he's created based on his own experience in the field, in all these different realms, and give us some good tips and ideas on how we could potentially make ourselves a little bit healthier. Also, I would say that Charles is known as the motivation to exercise guy. You can find that on his Facebook page. And his mission in life is really to try to make the world a place that's healthier and happier. So without further discussion of this, I'm going to introduce Charles. Great to have you here with us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you, Karen.
Yeah, you're welcome, you're welcome. It's great to have you here. And just for transparency, just to let you know how I know Charles in the first place, probably around 10 years ago. I think we've known each other for
at least that long.
Yeah, at least 10 years. Another side of myself, I'm an education consultant, but at the same time, also that active part of me also does some training. And Charles was one of my first instructors, an outstanding instructor at Boston Sports Club, and really my mentor in many ways about not only training and health and wellness, but also, I don't even know if you realized this at the time, but you were known as the anatomy guy. And not because of his big guns, actually, but they were probably impressive too at the time. I don't really remember. But the big thing was that Charles was the guy to go to when you had any kind of question about human anatomy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if there were these big strapping fitness guys saying, well, if I get on an incline bench and I want to work my pecs, am I really working my deltoids or is it really, anyway, he could answer those questions, not only about the muscles involved, but about the nerves involved and what were the stability parts of your body too. He was the answer man. So he really knows his stuff. So without getting too far into it, what I want to talk about is basically how you have so much experience. How did you get into this field and interested in fitness in the first place, Charles?
Yeah, and so I think my story, like a lot of people, starts with something personal. I was an athlete when I was younger, and I got injured a lot. And
what was your sport?
I played basketball and I ran track.
Oh, okay.
And I also bowled, but I count it as a sport, but everybody doesn't count it as a sport, so. But I'm very proud of it.
It's a fun hobby.
Absolutely. And so, I kept going to the doctor with these various injuries. And one day my general physician asked me, had I ever seen a physical therapist? And I said, no. So I met a physical therapist. They helped me to get back to basketball season. And I thought, that's what I want to do with people, like use exercise and, knowledge of the body to help people get back to the things that they enjoyed. So
cool.
Yeah, so that was my first introduction into it.
So about what age were you when you discovered
10.
this? 10?
Well, 10 was when I started playing sports, but I was injured every year. It's probably like 15, 16 was when I
Yeah.
made that decision that I wanted to be a physical therapist.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because as I deal with a lot of my clients who are high school and college students, they look at careers and career paths and directions. And it's always interesting to hear how somebody initially got interested in going in a particular career path. So
For
since
sure.
being a physical therapist, and you went to BU, I
went
think,
to
to start
BU,
with an
yeah.
awesome school for physical therapy and many things in the allied health area. And then you have these other things that you've done since then.
Yeah, there were a lot of different things along the way.
Yeah, so tell us about some of those other paths that
Yeah.
you took, directions that you took.
And so in physical therapy school, I had a really cool experience. I did an AmeriCorps program called Summer Bridge,
Oh, I didn't know that.
where I was a teacher, and
Oh, cool.
basically they take high school and college students and they teach middle school students. So I taught actually human anatomy, chemistry, and PE.
Oh, that's where it all came from.
And it was so enlightening career-wise because I feel like educational skills are useful for anybody and no matter what field
Yeah.
they go. And I almost left physical therapy school to become a teacher.
No kidding.
I was really, halfway through.
What would you teach?
I would have taught,
Chemistry or
probably
anatomy?
Probably
Anatomy.
I would have loved to have just been like a high school anatomy teacher and a coach and right off into the sunset.
Yeah, you're good with kids. I've seen you working with kids.
Yeah. And while I was in grad school, I had a friend who was a personal trainer, physiology student, and she said, you should be a trainer because you know so much about the body.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe that would be a nice side job. And previously for work study, I used to just work in gyms, as a maintenance person more than anything else. And so while I was in grad school, I became a trainer. And when I graduated, I did both for a little while. And what was amazing to me was the difference in approach when people were seeing me in a clinical rehab setting versus in a fitness wellness setting. So as an example, in the clinic, someone with back pain comes in and they say, oh, my back hurts, can you rub it? Can you put the machine on me? And it was a little more passive. And I would always say, wait, it's physical therapy. You have to do something physical.
Right.
Whereas in the gym, I'd meet the same person and they'd say, okay, Charles, I have back pain. I'm weak. I'm stiff. What do I have to do? And so I just enjoyed the mindset that people tended to show more so in a fitness wellness perspective.
Right.
And I thought it just made sense to work with people before they got hurt. And so I tended to shift some of my focus career-wise to trying to be more preventative, fitness and wellness oriented.
Right.
So that'd be less need for rehab.
I see. Now, I will also note that it is rather unusual to have a personal trainer who is also a doctor in physical therapy. It's usually the depth of the typical personal trainer does not go that far. So it is very advantageous to have someone who has that perspective. So then you went from that combination of providing clinical services as a physical therapist and then also working at a gym with athletes. And also, could you talk to us about the kind of population? Because obviously at the health club, it wasn't just geared toward performance enhancement. It was a general health club, right?
Yeah.
Probably like Boston Sports Club or some other place.
Yeah,
perhaps.
I think anyone who gets into training realizes that if you're in a big box gym, I can call it officially, that you can it can run the gamut. You may have a teenager who's with their parents, or someone who's 80 and retired, and anything in between. And so in the beginning, it really was a varied experience. As I kind of matured in my career, I started to become a little bit more known for the guy you go to when you're injured or have surgery, but you want to work out because of my physical therapy
Something
background.
a little more serious,
And so that, and I like that as a specialty, working with people with orthopedic injuries or joint pain. And so, so as I went further into my career, I tended to work with older people who had surgeries and injuries, but still wanted to be active and fit. Yeah, and I really liked working with that population.
So what are some of the kind of challenges that you had to deal with in working with that, if you want to call it a special population?
Yeah, well, I think some of the initial challenges, of course, is that the person's body won't let them do what they wanted to do. And so you have to be a little bit creative sometimes in figuring out how to work around the limitations. And there's always this dance of, I have this limitation. How much should I focus on the limitation to try to make it better? And how much do I say, it's a limitation, let me focus on everything else that's good?
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people, so there's a little push and pull, but
Right.
you know, at some point you just realize this is what I got, let me just do what I can. And,
Right.
and so, yeah, I think once people get to that spot where they embrace their limitations and just focus a little more on their strengths, I think that it tends to be a better experience for all involved.
I see.
Yeah.
So with our aging population and some of the statistics that I just pointed out earlier at the top of our session here, can you give us some example of what it might be like, for example, with working with an older patient, a more senior patient, or perhaps someone who has obesity issues that have also had an impact on their orthopedic situation?
Okay. All right. I'm wondering if maybe I'll go like a little bit back a little bit and add something else
Sure.
about kind of the transition from personal training and physical therapy to wellness coaching.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Like you mentioned, I was Mr. Anatomy guy, and I love learning about the body. And when I started, I was obsessed with how can I learn more about the body, because the more I know, the better I can tell people what to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
But what I realized, and I think a lot of clinicians realize, is that knowing what someone should do and knowing how to get them to be motivated to follow through with a plan are two different things.
Yes.
And
Yes, we all know this.
yeah, and so as a clinician, and as a trainer, I started to think to myself that it was more important for me to start studying psychology and motivation, because it's one thing for me to say, hey, you need to do this, 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 and that, but if the person doesn't do it, it's not
Right.
useful. But
Right.
and so motivation, I wish it was an easy thing that you could just sum up in like one word, but the
Right.
truth is that
Right.
it's a really, really vast topic. And so there's lots of little ways to think about it and look at it. And so everyone will have different motivational challenges.
Right, right. That's one of the things, by the way, that I noticed about you on the gym floor, is that you were excellent at kind of figuring out in a very short amount of time what the hot buttons might be for a particular client, what was going to get them motivated to make the change in their behavior.
For sure,
And
for
I don't
sure.
know if you were studying psychology at that point, or is it just from your own experience that
Some
you
of
were
it-
particularly talented at that?
Yeah, some of it was just natural, being a teacher, being around teachers, trying to pay attention. And I think being intuitive is one of my, and empathetic is one of my strengths. And so I think I did pay attention a little bit to that. Lost my train of thought, but what was that?
Well, I was
Yeah.
asking you about, give us the situation of perhaps a senior
Gotcha.
client that you might have had, and or somebody who, was an athlete or had obesity as an issue.
Gotcha. And so that helped me to focus a little bit. And so what I'll say is, in my latest career path, I've been working in corporate wellness. And what I realized is that being in the gym setting is so different from not being in a gym setting. From a motivational perspective, people who are coming to the gym are already pretty motivated.
Right.
And of course, if someone's paying to work with a personal trainer, then they're pretty highly motivated.
That's true.
And so I think one of the crutches for trainers when they're dealing with people who aren't in the gym is, in the gym, all you have to do is tell people what to do. They come in, they say,
Right.
hey, I'm here, and you just show them what
Right,
to do.
you run them through the
and
exercises,
they come up
you
with a
mark the
couple
charts,
little
yeah.
things, and you experiment. But when someone's not in the gym, what do you tell them?
Yeah, what do you tell them?
And so that led me to think about, how do I create a model that made sense for people who weren't there? How do I get them to the gym? How do I understand motivation? And one of the challenges I think a lot of coaches have, and it's not just in wellness coaching, but if people don't have rules to follow or a common language, then how do you explain the game?
Right, right.
So like if someone said, hey, Charles, I want to be better at basketball. Okay, I know how I can explain the rules of basketball. You can dribble, you can pass, you can shoot, you can't do this, you can't do that. I can tell them the rules, and then I can coach them to get better at it. When someone says, Charles, I'm not motivated. Okay, what rules are we playing by?
Right.
Because if there's no rules, then how do I help coach them on it? And so I really just tried to take as much as I could from different other psychological models,
Sports
and
psychology
other
and stuff
things,
like that.
and kind of put it into one. And so what I say is that if someone wants to improve their health, of course they have some type of health goal. The obvious thing is that they need to change something about their behavior to get to that goal.